a bio from that. And I'm going to read it to you. And I want you all to listen to like my area of expertise and my fancy bling that makes you know that you want to listen to me. Daniela Mestenek Young is an author and former member of the controversial religious group known as the Children of God, also referred to as the Family International. Born into this cult, she experienced a highly controlled and abusive environment that stifled individuality and subjected members to strict regulations and indoctrination. After escaping the cult as a teenager, Young pursued a path of personal and professional growth that led her to serve in the U.S. Army, where she sought to understand and navigate another highly structured and regimented organization. Daniela became one of the first women in U.S. Army history to conduct deliberate ground combat operations when she volunteered to serve on a female engagement team and received the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. Her unique life experiences, spanning both cult and the military, have provided her with a profound understanding of group dynamics, control mechanisms, and resilience. Daniela holds a master's degree from the Harvard Extension School in organizational psychology and has channeled her insights and experiences into her writing, notably in her memoir, Uncultured, where she explores themes of freedom, identity, and the impact of extreme environments on the human psyche. Daniela can be found furiously knitting on a variety of social media platforms under the hashtag #GroupBehaviorGal, where she calls herself a scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership, and is always giving people useful tips on how knowing about the bad guys and bad groups can help you navigate the ones you are in as well. Daniela is an organizational development speaker with the Macmillan Speakers Bureau, and you can see her TED Talk, Lost in Transition. Daniela is working on a second book called The Culting of America. Okay, so little bit long, but the main thing that I'm going to talk about is going to be your areas of expertise and how I think what I really am is an entrepreneur of words and ideas. And there's a lot of ways you can monetize those outside of the publishing, right? Like we're all working to become authors or we already have books. So when I decided to write Uncultured, I went and found a co-writer. And the first thing she said to me, I like to joke, was nobody cares about you. She said, you're not famous. So your book can't be about you. Your memoir can't be about you. Your memoir is about one idea. What's that idea? And my response was this group psychology concept that I just started studying, that humans will do almost anything to fit into your voluntary groups. And I was like, I can show you that in this microsystem of the cult and then in this macro system of the US Army. And this idea, this big idea, and then all of the themes in your book, I once had the advice to make every chapter of your book a TED Talk. So even though my book Uncultured reads to you like a chronological story of my life, Chapter 1 is about corporal punishment. Chapter 2 is about the split personality of cult members. Chapter 3 is about programming the children. Chapter 4 is about medical neglect. These are all things, these are all topics that I can say, I wrote a book about that. Driving back to sales. This is super helpful, by the way, to be doing while you're writing your book. And one of the things that broke in my favor really hard was that I was getting my master's degree while I was writing Uncultured. And so I was tucking all of these neat, cool things that I was learning into the book. What I wasn't doing, however, was really using that to build my social media. And this is where I can really help you now. So I think really what authors do wrong is we try to sell our books instead of just giving away our expertise for free. So even if you're writing a book, even if you're just starting, that content itself can be building your platform, right? I'm gonna write XYZ memoir, it's gonna contain these themes. And then every day, as you're writing about it, you're talking about it, right? What is this making you feel? How is this making you, how how does this tie back to the things that you're writing about? Because you're going to get known as, you want to get known as a person. I'm either known as group behavior gal or knitting cult lady. And everyone knows who those people are when somebody mentions me. And that's what you're trying to go for. Okay. And I will tell you, like, I had a very large book deal with Macmillan Books. Macmillan Books decided to make my book a bestseller. Still came out back end with what they call disappointing sales. And the parts they can't control. But if I had had 150,000 followers like I do now on my social media platforms, my book would have been on the New York Times best-selling list. So figuring this out while you're writing your book or prior to launch can be really, really, really good for you. So what happened with me was after I turned in Uncultured and I started working on, after I turned in Uncultured, I spent 6 months working on a second memoir on American. We'll get back to this and how I monetized it without publishing. It's very important, so don't let me forget. Okay. When I started working on this research book, The Culting of America, I was just thinking through like what my days are going to be like. And I literally said to myself, my life is fascinating. I wonder if anyone else wants to know about all these things that are going on inside my brain and all of these things I'm going to be learning while I'm doing this research. And this is the part where when I talk to authors, a lot of people get confused and they're like, well, I mean, yeah, you're an expert, right? Because I do have a nice shiny degree in my area of expertise. But I promise you that you become an expert by giving good information on something, right? Like that's all that matters. So my example is you could get on TikTok or your social media platform of choice. Figure out which one is good for you. I'm good on video and I'm good on text. So I'm phenomenal on TikTok. I'm good on Threads. I'm building up my YouTube. I really hate glam and photos, and so I'm not good at Instagram, but I'm there because other authors are there. And that's also part of my content strategy. So you could get on TikTok every day or your social media platform of choice and say, I'm gonna make a video every day about a different thing to do with a pipe cleaner. And you could do that every day for a year. At the end of this year, you would have a following, trust me, and you would be an expert on how to use pipe cleaners, right? Like you would have the expertise in 365 different ways to use pipe cleaners. So I'm really going to like give you this nudge, right? Like no one's coming to check on your expertise. No one's coming to demand they see whatever. I didn't feel comfortable calling myself an expert. That's why I called myself a scholar. Who can have a problem with me calling myself a scholar? Somebody did. And that gave me just more content to make. Oh, you don't know what a scholar is? Okay, a scholar is XYZ. But at the end of the day, I give people useful information, right? So your area of expertise, like if you are writing a book, you have an area of expertise. If you've written a book, you have an area of expertise. Substack is great. Anything that works for you, because my second thing is find your platforms. Like literally figure out one that you love and use that one to really build your community. And everything else you should be able to like double and triple up on your content. So right now, for example, I am streaming this talk I'm giving you on TikTok Live and YouTube Live. And it would have also been on my Patreon, but I didn't have time to set all three up. So you can use like content for everything. I have 11,000 followers on Instagram. I've never spent any time there. I simply dump whatever video I made for TikTok onto Instagram. And now my content strategy is becoming a little more complicated, but we'll see if we get back to that. So, I'm gonna say I've sold about 50,000 books. A lot of those are through my publisher. A lot of those are through me doing tons and tons of podcasts and all of the things. I also made $12,000 in the month of March just selling my book on TikTok not all of these other different things. And so this is what I'm telling you, like, your expertise is yours, the content you've created is yours, and there's a lot of different ways you can monetize it. The number one way you're going to do that is consistency. I don't care what social media platform you are on, it's consistency. And the reason that I have a 100,000 person platform on TikTok is because every day, 5 days a week, I show up and post my videos. I post an average of 20 videos a day. This is part of my full-time job. I don't know anyone else that does that. But I would recommend between 1 and 5 posts a day, because consistently showing up is what's going to get you a following. And if you're consistently showing up and consistently posting, then you're going to also be consistently going viral. And you're going to be, oh, look at this, while I'm doing this talk, someone just subscribed to my paid Patreon. So I now get over $100 a month, and I've only had my Patreon up for a week. Okay, so as you are building your brand on the platform that you're on, start looking at their monetization. So the thing about TikTok is a marketplace, right? But every social media is a marketplace. If it's free for you to use, then you are the product, right? And so I discovered a few months ago that I could add my book as a product to TikTok Marketplace, right? This was when I got enough followers to qualify to have a shop. Okay, so on TikTok specifically, you have to have 500 followers to go live just with your voice, like to talk to me. You have to have 1,000 followers to go live with picture. You have to have 5,000 followers to turn yourself into a shop. That's when you can start monetizing. I simply built my platform, built. I told my husband, I bet when I reach 100,000 followers, that's when I start really monetizing. That number was 90. Now, the thing I did wrong was I put all of my eggs in one basket, and I'm a former military intelligence officer, and I should know better than that. Especially because I kept saying cancel culture is not real and no one can shut me up because they don't know where my power comes from. When it became very obvious that I was making boatloads of money on TikTok, haters were able to come for me and get my account suspended for 90 days. Not my TikTok account, just the ability. All I had was the ability to tag my autographed book into each video. And just that, I was selling 20 books a day for $20 of profit each. Because these are my reseller books that I'm buying through my publisher, and then I'm selling autographed. And the one thing I admit to learning about business from Jeff Bezos is make it easy for people to put money in your hands. And literally, I have the same platform. I'm making the same number of videos every day. All they have to do is go search for my book in Uncultured, and they can get an autographed book, and I sell 1 book a week. And it's probably from Instagram, where I still can tag my products. So getting on your platforms of choice, figuring out how you're going to build your audience, showing up consistently, and don't worry, you're gonna refine your stuff, right? Like, I did not just pop up on TikTok knitting every day and talking about cults and having all of these different things. So the consistency, the only 2 things I have found that matter on social media at all is consistency and authenticity. So find one that you like. You know, I like video, so I pop up all the time. And then sell yourself and sell your books. I have something like this in every single video behind me. Now I actually make a fancy frame where I'm sitting inside my own book cover, and I have all these different QR codes and stuff. And, you know, you can do all kinds of stuff with editing, but there's always this, I first noticed that when I dropped my sort of 11-second elevator pitch, I would get more subscribers. And then it's definitely true for sales. So right now, my pitch is, so I'll do my hook, right? Why are white people always joining cults? I'm Daniela, scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership. I wrote a book about growing up in the Children of God and then going into the U.S. Army cult. I'm also former Captain Mestenek in the U.S. Army. I have a master's degree in organizational psychology, and I'm writing a second book called The Culting of America. And when I have the capability of tagging that book, I say, when I talk about I wrote a book of growing up in this, going to that, I say you can get autographed copies here. And every single time, every single video I make, I'm talking about my book. Why? Because I've grounded my expertise in this, right? Even my name on TikTok, this kind of happened by accident, but my @ sign was already Daniela Mestenek Young, which is complicated, and your name absolutely doesn't matter. And so, but I put for the name slot, I put group behavior gal. Just trying to think of something clever. Turns out it's great because group behavior gal is the one talking back to everybody. Also, I feel this is my social contract with the reader. Or if you're on YouTube, I'm knitting cult lady. But like, no matter what crazy journey I take you on for 16 minutes or whatever it is, right? We're going to come back to group behavior. So we know this. And then I've already plugged all of these themes. So, you know, I had a straight white Christian male Republican tell me that there was no market for my stories because nobody could understand growing up in a sex cult. No, he said, a nice girl from Milwaukee that's never had anything bad happen to her can't understand growing up in a sex cult or being a woman at war. He also told me I couldn't reverse engineer a best-selling memoir. And I thought to myself, sir, I don't think you understand reverse engineering. The formula, by the way, is good origin stories, expertly told with ideas that matter to everyone, right? And it always comes back to these ideas because that's what you're giving away. That's what your area of expertise is. And then listen to your market. And this is what I do really well because I am an entrepreneur, is I use my market to help me develop my products. So people asked me if I could read to them for longer because I would just, of the reading that I was doing, I would just once in a while find a good quote and I'll be like, oh, let me read you this quote. And I make these short videos. Those are great, but people were like, can you start reading longer? And so now I have a whole series called Devotions with Daniela, where I am just reading to you from somebody else's book. My tie-in here is that I'm using cult tactics to deprogram cult things. So we read a lot of like anti-sexist books, anti-racist books, first thing in the morning. Recently, now that I'm quite good at it, I've started going live while I record my morning's content. But when I'm telling y'all consistency, like the first 90 minutes of my day as I'm sitting here drinking my coffee, I make 10 videos every day, right? And so you're using all this different stuff. When you're live with people or whether you're doing it through comments, be a part of that conversation. That's the other thing that I have done is I've really curated this conversation, which then makes it a community, right? So the number one thing that I'm told by people on my account is that they really love that I've created this space to deconstruct, right? And I wasn't really aware that I was doing that on TikTok, but now I'm very aware that I'm doing that on my Patreon, which once again, every time I make a video for subscribers only, I make a 60-second video talking about the video that I made and any reason to be like, hey, free for subscribers, TikTok or Patreon or wherever you're doing your subscribers, right? To constantly be driving people. And like, it takes time, but I have 15 subscribers on Patreon and I've had an account for a week. And like, if I get 1,000, that's $6,000 to $10,000 a month. So these are really good things to build. Okay, so that's kind of my like, this is how you do it. And now I just want to tell you some of my content things. So again, you own everything. One of the things I learned from my co-author, because she put it in the contract, was keep your rights to all of your merch and like anything that comes from your book. So I have earrings with my book cover on them. You can get these done from Etsy, and I wear these every time I travel. Usually with some fabulous crochet dress, and I never pay for drinks. But I will sell like 10 to 15 books on a trip. And TSA agents are really scanning people, and they're bored all the time. But readers will come up and out themselves to you, right? They'll be like, oh my God, those are great earrings. And then when you turn around and say, oh, thanks, I wrote it, their jaw's going to drop, right? So only 1% of people have written books. So then that gives you the opportunity. And then everyone wants a book that of like a person they know. If you don't have book plates, get book plates. These are fancy branded stickers from your publisher that you can sign and send people for autographs. So I sell other things, right? Because I'm crafting all the time. So I have an Etsy shop. So every time I sell something from my Etsy shop, I put a signed autograph sticker for Uncultured, because if they don't have Uncultured, or if they've listened to it or bought it digitally, they're probably going to go out and buy a hard copy so they can stick it in, so they can have an autographed copy, especially since we already know that they like me because they're paying a lot for my things. So that's another one. This was the gift that I gave out at my book launch to like my close friends. I always have it on videos. In my book, I talk about this horrible punishment where they used to like put us in, I call it walk around shunning, like no one's allowed to talk to you, silence restriction. But since we're living in groups with 100, 150 people, how does everyone know that they're not supposed to talk to you? So they would make us wear signs that say things like, don't talk to me, I'm disrespectful. So I put that in a book. I copyrighted that book. And this is one of the most popular t-shirts that I sell. Also, I have a t-shirt company called Disrespectful T-shirts. I have things like phrases that nobody owns. I have things like very popular chapter in my book. And every time someone's like, oh, you should put this. The other day I was like, I'm ready for the witchy phase of life. Boom, now that's on a t-shirt. In the back end, my t-shirt company is a Printify account. So I have a Printify account, I have a Canva, and I put words on t-shirts. Like, it's not hard. And I sell regularly. And again, once you get your products, you can pull your products into TikTok shop and Instagram shop, Facebook shop, and Shopify. And you can tag these things to like every post that you do. So I still have the ability to like tag and stuff on Instagram, though not on TikTok, but I will be back in 90 days. So just encouraging you to like think of different things that you can do with your words, right? So I came home 5 years ago and I said, I'm not getting another corporate job. I'm going to make money from my brain. And it took me 4 years to start doing that. But in those 4 years, I made an incredible amount of content. And so now I am like systematically monetizing all of that, right? So I didn't want to create a Patreon because I was like, I didn't want to have another responsibility for another thing. But I created a blog. And so let me tell you how I'm doing this. And I'm going to tell you this with the example of Un-American, my second memoir. This will be a spoiler alert if you haven't read Uncultured, but it's not a huge one. After I had already written Uncultured, like 3 days before it sold, so the story has been told, I was contacted by the military and asked to testify against my ex-husband from a decade ago for white supremacy so they could kick him out of the military. I was like, no way in hell that this is my life, right? 33 years old. I've already had such a big life. I have a giant memoir coming out. You're not telling me that I also married a white supremacist. And in that moment, I was like, oh, I married a white supremacist because I grew up in a cult. Boom. That's a whole nother book. That's a whole nother round of me going back through cult stories and army stories, but this time I'm looking at it through the lens of power and privilege and whiteness and otherness and what it means to be un-American/un-American. All those 5 things I listed, by the way, are now my areas of expertise because I have written a book about them. And so my publisher didn't want this book, but out of that came The Culting of America. And my agent, for whatever reasons, didn't think that it was publishable with another company. So it was kind of just dead. Meanwhile, I mentioned it, I call this my mini like Taylor Swift all too well moment. Like I'd mentioned to my audience that I have written this thing called Un-American, but I can't publish it. And all of a sudden one day I'm sitting there going, like 100,000 people sit and watch me knit every day. My audiobook is popular. I'm just going to make a video of me reading from the manuscript of Un-American, and I'm going to sell that video. And so I did. All it cost me was half a week of my time and half a week of my husband's time to sit here and record the 150-page mini book that I wrote. If it had sold, this would be developed into a full book. It hasn't, but I'm not selling this as a finished product. In fact, I'm not selling this so much as a finished product that I'm also selling discussion groups that you can come buy a seat in my discussion group. You buy the video for 20 bucks on my Patreon. So it's driving you to my Patreon. Or you can buy a seat in my discussion group for 25 bucks and get the video for free. Or you can subscribe and get the video for free. So there's all of these ways. In 1 week, I've made over $1,000 of profit and gotten 15 full-time subscribers on my Patreon and like 15 on my TikTok as well. And this is all of something that was just like sitting there. And so now when I mentioned my blog, and I have a blog of all of the essays and articles carefully handcrafted like we all do, that we were so excited about, that never got placed. Like I have really fun articles, like what cult survivors, military veterans, and Prince Harry have in common, that I wrote during the hullabaloo. Couldn't get anyone to publish it. Now I'm just making videos of myself reading them out loud and then putting them on my Patreon for $3 or free if you subscribe, plus my little ad about it. And on and on. One more just content idea for you. And this came about because I really, really hate the idea of thought leaders because I don't like cults. And so one of the things that I did, or I do, is I try to bring in 50% of my content that is not from me. So for example, my readers asked me, can you read more from your own book? I was like, sure. Read it all the way through back when you could only do 3-minute videos on TikTok. When I was done with that, I was like, well, I need more. People tune in to me all the time. So I started reading Sarah Edmondson's book from Nexium out loud in 3-minute segments. That's also doing Sarah Edmondson of Nexium a huge amount of favors and tagging her all of the time, right? And so they really like this. Some authors will be like, don't give spoiler alerts. Some authors are fine with you just reading it out. However, one little nugget I will throw in that I got from the publishing industry is people need 7 interactions with your book for them to buy your book. Someone asked me if there's cover artwork for Un-American. I did not go that far. I did pay for sensitivity readers, which I don't suggest skipping. But what I did do is I created, both for Un-American and for Culting of America, I created just like a header that looks just like this. And so when I make my videos, I'm sitting in like a professional looking Un-American or Uncultured. I still have every ability to take Un-American Plus with all of these extra discussions and ideas that people have given me and publish that at any time, right? I didn't lose that because it's not published. It's a video of me reading an unpublished manuscript. My book, Culting of America, that's a research book that is taking, I thought it was going to take me a year. Now I think it's going to take me about 2.5 years, and I'm a year in. And so one of my subscriber benefits is that every time I finish a chapter, I do a video of me reading it, and then I put that plus the text on there that people can read. I'm really, really, really of the idea that you can't ever like give away too many spoilers from your stuff. Like if people like what you are selling, they want to put money in your hands. If people like the information you are giving them, they want to put money in your hands. And I have so many people who purchase my signed book that say that they've already had the audio, but now they want to purchase a signed copy. And then, you know, finally this, so TikTok does affiliate sales. Some of these others might do it, but for TikTok, I have other authors, probably all these other authors whose books I've been reading and advertising all the time. And then I say, hey, can I send you a free signed copy of my book or a t-shirt that says hashtag blocked from the celestial kingdom? And every time you talk about it, you tag it for me. And so that's true right now for Uncultured. Like any creator that wants can tag it and they get $3 every time it's sold. And we're building our thing. I've even started thinking for people, I mean, for people that don't have an audiobook, like you self-publish your book, make a video book, make a video of you reading it, right? You can be coloring things. You could just be coloring a bunch of bookmarks. Maybe not coloring while you read it, but you can be doing something and then like, you know, sell or give away these things. A lot of people tell me they don't feel comfortable on video. That's where my coloring thing came from. Like have a video of an adult coloring book that you're just like coloring on while you're talking, because people go to TikTok to learn stuff. Oh yeah, and that's the final thing I'm doing. I wrote a children's book, which is really, really hard to have a breakout children's book. And it's the one place where my crazy story doesn't really give me an edge. It's really expensive to self-publish a color book. And so instead, I'm just making it the best children's book poem I can, and then I'm going to put it on an adult coloring book and sell it for $5.99 on my sites. And, you know, signed for more. So I think that's my whole spiel. And I just want to like encourage you again that your area of expertise is your area of expertise. If you know it, it's yours to talk about and no one's coming to check. So just like, even if you're not an expert in something, if you show up every day and make content, you will soon be an expert on that. Same goes for writing your book. And every single amount of effort that you put into creating your great art, you need an equal amount of effort in marketing or nobody's ever going to see that art.
Thank you so much, Daniela. This is absolutely amazing. And I've learned so much and have to just briefly share, inspired by you and my art agent. So he has this weird sales technique that I find baffling, but I decided to draw from your wisdom and then draw from my art agent. And when my book just came out, but I was like, oh, I'm a member of a ton of different Facebook groups that are areas that interest me, right? And one of them is like LGBTQ camping, right? It's like people who camp and have RVs and they're queer. There's over 20,000 people in the group. And so I didn't post in there because most groups won't let you post to sell something. You can't like put a link and be like, buy my book. But I just posted a picture of me holding my book, smiling. And there's a picture of a camper with a rainbow door on the cover. And I was like, hey, I'm so excited that I published my book, wrote what it was about, and said, I thought all of you would really like the cover. And I did this, I think, yesterday. In that amount of time, my book sales went up. Like I was ranked at, like 70 something in one category, and I went all the way up to 7th in that category. And I had probably 35 different people in the comments actually say, I just ordered it. And that's not even including people who are like, oh, I'm going to order this, or where do I order it? And so just by sharing that, which literally took me 2.5 minutes, sold all these other books. And so if you join a lot of different groups that relate to your expertise and you're involved in them, instead of saying, buy this, You just post yourself smiling with it.
Yeah.
And then people are excited to support you.
Angela, two more things also. So I took a really long time to sign up for bookshop.org, but as you are building a platform, when you get like 10,000 followers or something, go sign up to be a bookshop affiliate, which means every book you recommend, you use the affiliate link. So right now on my website, all of the links for buying Uncultured either take you to my signed audiobook or my affiliate link. So I get $2 when you buy my book, even through the traditional means, as well as everyone else's book. And then another tip, because a lot of stuff won't let you use links because they're not trying to get you to drive stuff to other platforms. So I use a lot of QR codes. There's a free QR code doer on Canva, and I use all my bookshop.org links, and there are no rules, right? So this is just like a shirt that I wear around. I made this when TikTok got me angry. I have shirts with my book on it that my friends and my husband wear. I have shirts that say, whatever college you want, Harvard is my favorite cult. And then on the back, I have the QR code for where to get that shirt and another QR code for my signed book. And the QR code's on the screen. It's like, it's not necessarily the automatic thing because you're on your device, but I will say in my, whenever I'm pitching my book, I'll be like, you can just snap a screenshot and get this later. So a lot of social media, you can embed images. So you can do sneaky things like that also.
And I want to thank you again and acknowledge, I know I said that we were going to stop at 7. And so I understand if some of you have to jet, but if you have maybe 2 or 3 more minutes, and if anyone has any questions that you want to ask Daniela, or share, you could write it in the chat or share it aloud if anyone has any questions.
Someone asked if my Patreon has a knitting group, and I feel like it's about to. Oh my gosh. One more thing that I've monetized is book clubs, right? So people, when you're an author, people want to hear you talk about your book and other people's books. So I did a book club for cults based on, I think people need to read 5 cult books in a row so they can recognize the patterns. I made it 12. That's probably a lot. I charged $120 per person to sign up for the year, and I sold out 2 groups of 40 very quickly. And people still ask me all the time. So now I'm trying to see what I can do on Patreon, because Patreon also has levels where you can have like the discussion with people that pay a lot, and then you can have a recording, and then you can have another thing. And I've just recently done one for women veterans as well, because people keep asking for this. And like the cult ones, like that's just $6,000 that I made right there. I also do just like Stitch and Bitch, or just I'm an author. People want to get together and talk to me. I'm a personality online. So every quarter or something, I just put 2 hours of my time up there on Eventbrite for $30 or whatever I want to charge. And that's another thing. And then, oh gosh, there was one more thing that I thought about. The books, the book clubs, Patreon. Oh, I'm starting 2 podcasts, of course. That's another way to monetize. Ugh, I've been resisting it for a long time. There's one more thing that I thought about, but let's take some questions, see if it comes back.
I love the idea of monetizing the book clubs. I know, Rebecca, you've already been to at least 1 book club since your book came out, and you've got a couple more in the queue, don't you? Oh, we can't hear you. It says you're unmuted, but now I can't hear you at all.
Oh, okay. I remembered one more thing I was going to say, and I promise this is my last thing, is that, the way I explain this is if you are a white collar worker, right? If you're selling your mind to a company, that means you can sell it to yourself. That's consulting. So you can have a service. Like I was really publicly mocked for using co-writers to write my book. So now I have a service where for $2,500, I can walk you through writing a book the way I had co-writers help me, right? Or for $250, you can take the super good class, virtual class that I'm going to put together. Or for $25, you can watch the 6-part series of me just talking to you about my process. Same for this brand, like this discussion that we're having right now. I'm going to make this into a service that I can give you for lots of money, a class that I can give you, and then a chatty video that I can give you. So I'm hitting all these different price points. And even with the book that I'm writing now, The Culting of America, I'm going to put together a sociology class and pitch it to the university here when I'm done. But I'm also going to just put it online for however many hundreds of dollars for individuals that just want to take my class on cults and coercive control. So all of these things, I'm always talking about, like, how do you productize your brain? If somebody pays you for something, that means you can probably turn it into a product that can sell while you're sleeping.
Absolutely. And I should remind me, Daniela, because we'll see each other in DC, to connect you with the School of Global Citizenry, because they would love to have that course. And they have an amazing, like, 70-30 split where all the professors get
Nice.
70%. And they have their platform. It's a wonderful platform. Anyway, so I'll connect you with that. Rebecca, did you want to write what you were going to say or no? Okay. Any other questions that you have for Daniela before we sign off today? Trying to give the full Parker Palmer 1 minute to respond after a question. I know you've given me, and we've already talked about this, you and I, but you've given me a lot of food for thought. And I love that for everybody, even, Rebecca, your book has already come out. Diana, yours is, you're reviewing your interior galleys, but you have other books in the queue, right? And so I love how, Daniela, what you shared with us, if someone has had a book already come out, you can still do what you described. Mm-hmm. And if you're working on a book like Julia, I think with your process and this new document that you have, it can be these notes to yourself to be like, here's how I can share this. I know you've been marinating on Substack for like a year now almost. So
and it's kind of like, I find it actually as a way to refine my ideas before I put them down on paper. And like doing this, how I've been doing it on my research book, I literally call this like crowdsourcing the research, because I'll just be like, hey, I need people that talk about whatever, or, oh my God, I just found this term, here's how it applies to this. How do you think it applies to your world? And then also use promoting other authors' work as a content strategy, because just for nothing else, it connects you with those authors. So like this Wednesday, I am having a call with one of my favorite authors on God, Green Earth. I still can't stop giggling that she is like reading my book and wants to talk to me. And it all came because on the 5th time of seeing some crazy chick knitting and tagging her book, she like tuned into what I was doing. And as soon as you have a book, you're automatically the colleague of everyone else with a book. So, use that.
I love that. I think that that's brilliant. And that's, part of at Home Center Publishing, what we try to do, like that's our part of our culture is collaboration rather than competition. So you can start with each other.
Yeah. And I always get so frustrated when people act like there's so much competition out there. It's like, what do readers do as soon as they finish a book they like? Like they want another book just like that, right? So if you're building a platform based on things that authentically interest you and that you're doing research or writing on, like your people are going to be interested in the other things that you're interested in. So my account is a cult account, but I also, first of all, share all of my fiber arts. I talk about salsa dancing. I talk about deprogramming racism. I pull in all these different pieces because, well, if I'm interested in cults and these other topics are fascinating to me, then most likely other people interested in cults are also trying to, or would also find these fascinating. And this is just, as I'm thinking, another thing that Probably for every memoirist, it can get frustrating to have people tell you that your horrible story, they loved it. Or, people will be like, oh my God, I loved your book. And they always say, it made me cry or it made me laugh. So, by the way, if you can make people spontaneously emote, they will say they loved your book. And I had other authors warn me, be like, oh, it's so creepy to hear people say that they love cults. Or I've literally had someone chirpily say, oh my God, Children of God is my favorite cult. And we were the pedophile one, right? But the way I look at it is that anyone who says they're interested in cults is probably trying to figure out coercive control in their own life. So now, because of this, right, like I'm sharing language that I've found. And that's what we're all doing as writers, is trying to put language and words to this experience and then giving it to other people. And when you do that, these people will love you and these people will grow your platform for you, because they'll keep like tagging you on. I mean, I get sent 50 videos a day now that I like repost and use as my content strategy. And there's always people tagging me with other creators. Every Friday, I do a live with a different interesting person, and I just have them on. I'm going to talk about cults. They're going to talk about their thing. And we're both like feeding off of each other's platforms.
I love that.
And
Thank you
everything
so,
is
so
content.
much. Absolutely. And I think for those who are here, and even some, because this will be recorded and sent to others, but I think